Hey guys, BC here with another video. Today I'll be talking about graphic settings, in-game settings, and hotkeys as well. So let's start with the graphic settings. Oftentimes people ask me in my stream, why do you use these settings? The game looks bad, and why don't you just use better quality? So the reason for that is most of the pro players use these settings that you see right here. So you put graphics quality on low, and you put texture quality on medium. The reason for that is if you play on high or ultra settings, everything is shiny, everything is flashy. There's random flowers that you see that can be very distracting when you're in an actual game, and I simply don't really need better graphics to enjoy the game myself. And the reason why you put texture quality on medium is because it's easier to see cloaked units if you have texture quality on medium. And one trick to see cloaked units better is if you zoom in, you can see the blur if the stealthed unit is passing by. So that's just another trick you can use in game. Now, sound settings, the only real thing is enable headphone mode, because it's just better for gaming in general, and sometimes you'll be able to hear where the opponent is attacking you if maybe you don't see them or you're unaware where they're coming from. I have music disabled, sometimes listen to my own music, and I find the Starcraft 2 music distracting. So this is a preference based. Voice chat, not much. Mouse and keyboard and gameplay is something that's pretty much the most important settings out there. Even the graphic settings is what people prefer. This is the mouse and keyboard settings I use. So one of the important things is disable the Windows key so you don't accidentally click it. I have enable mouse wheel zoom for zooming in against stealthed units, like I just mentioned. Reduce mouse lag, and then scroll speed is almost the same as mouse sensitivity. So you can play with this, you can test it out and just see what works for you. But one thing I would definitely suggest is enable mouse wheel zoom and disable Windows key. Now, gameplay settings. There's a lot of settings here, so I'll go through the most important ones. First one is show alerts. I have this enabled since I started playing. It pops up to the left side, and it just helps me sometimes see things that I don't maybe hear, like upgrade is finished, or something is finished building, and so on. Always show worker status is really important, because you would be able, for example, like this, to see above your command center how many workers you have in that base, how many more do you need, instead of putting your mouse over it, because this is just better and takes less time from the game. So I suggest having that on. Build order indicator and simple command grid is something I use for when you're making buildings, to know where to position them way easier. Now, one thing that's really weird is when you start a Starcraft, enable enemy unit selection is disabled, so definitely enable that, because you need to be able to click the enemy units to see what their upgrades are, just to see how much health they have, and everything that goes along with it, how much energy they have or mana. One thing that I didn't see many people use is display experience points. I use this to allow myself to see whether I killed a unit. So sometimes as I'm going back and forth, sometimes I might not see if a unit exploded or died. So with experience points displayed, you can see if you killed a unit, even if maybe you thought it's out of range or something like that. And for me personally, this is like extremely helpful when I actually play the games. Colorblind mode, obviously, if you're colorblind, enable that. Team color intensity is basically how bright your color in game will be of your units and of the enemy units. You can pick all the colors here that you're interested in. And the last thing for the gameplay settings is show unit life bars. I have it on always because I just think it's better to be able to see what health your units have, how much health the opponent's units have, so you can know which ones to target fire. And then control groups I have to unclickable. And the reason for that is, so first of all, health bars are the ones that are above your units, and the control groups are these groups right here. So you can put them on hidden, normal, or unclickable. I have them on unclickable because if I'm moving my unit sometimes you might misclick and click some other control group. But I still like seeing what I have keybind already, so I definitely suggest putting them on unclickable just for that reason. And that's it for that. Now, the other thing I want to be talking about today is the hotkeys. So, first of all my hotkeys are completely unchanged as far as building units or spells on units, anything like that. And this is again preference based, so whatever you want you can re-keybind everything. So if you click on a siege tank, you can, siege mode is E, you can change it to whatever you want, whatever works for you. But there's a couple of things that I think everyone should at least consider. The things that I use is that I changed is camera hotkeys. So in camera hotkeys there's create location option, and I have it on control F2. Location 2 is control F3, create location 3 is control F4. Now that's for creating a location. I'll explain in a little bit what it exactly means. And then jump to location, since it's easy to remember, is F2 for the first location, F3 for the second, and F4 for the third. Now what that means in the game itself is if I click on my main command center and I click control F2, I click on the natural, click control F3, and then on my third base control F4, what that enables me to do is to jump between the camera locations that I just created with this option. So for example, if I click F2, it will go to my main base. If I click F3, it will go to the natural. If I click F4, it will go to the third base. Now I suggest having this no matter what league you are. I think that's something really good to have. And even if you just started out, maybe if you're bronze or silver, you don't really need this yet, but as you advance in leagues, this is definitely something that I think you need in the game. Instead of, you know, selecting your units and clicking on my main base to send them, what I can do is just select my units and then F2 and then send them. So you basically jump locations really quickly, and it's just extremely helpful in game. Now that's one hotkey that I have changed. So again, the way to do this is go in options, hotkeys, global, and then camera, and then create location, and then jump to location as well. One thing I want to also mention is if you have your SCVs AFK like this, what you can do is the F1 hotkey, basically what it does is it will click those idle workers. So you can see if I'm holding through F1, it skips through all the idle workers and jumps to them to show you where they are. But if you have too many workers, like if you have just one AFK, that option is really good to just click F1, find where it is and move it. But let's say I have this many AFK workers, which you can see in the bottom left. There's 22 right now. The way you select all of them is by clicking Control and F1, and that way you select all the SCVs. So you can send some to the main and then some to the natural. And last but not least, I want to talk about my personal hotkeys and why I use them. As you guys can see in the bottom left, I don't use F2. I think that's a bad habit and you shouldn't use it. If you really necessarily need to select all units, just click in the bottom left, but I would not suggest using it all the time because I think it's just not good. So let's go through my hotkeys. 8, 9, and 10. 8, 9, and 0 are basically just to fill in the blanks. I don't really use those. Number 4 is all my command centers on one hotkey. Number 5 is all my barracks, which this game I just built one of each. So if I had, you know, 4 more Rexes, I would put them all on the same hotkey. Number 6 is the factory, and number 7 is the starport. So when you make units, what I do is I click 5, make some Marines, click 6, make, you know, siege tank, widow mine, whatever. Click 7, make medevac, Viking, or whatever else you need. And the way I keybind my units is, in general, this depends from matchup, but in general, I keybind my bio units on 1 because they're most mobile, they're fastest, they're the easiest to click, they're the most mobile units. So I put my bio units on 1, and then if you want to stutter step by clicking A, left click, it's pretty close to each other, you know, letter A and number 1. Number 2, I put my mech units usually, like widow mines or siege tanks. So I have, you know, nice variation of the groupings, because I don't really like having all my units on one hotkey. I like being able to move just the siege tanks or just the widow mines if I want them to. And then on number 3, I have my air units, so whether that's a Raven or a Viking or a Banshee. If I don't have any of those, I use number 3 for medevac drops. So this is just another thing that, you know, everyone has different hotkeys. This is the ones I use that I personally found the best for me. But you should just play with hotkeys, see how you like them, and yeah, find what's best for you. Another thing what you can do, and what some pro players do as well, is you can put all your production buildings on one hotkey. So for example, if I click number 5, you'll see that all the production buildings are set up right now on that hotkey. And if I want to make units, I will click 5, make some Marines or Marauders, then click Tab to switch to another production building, which is the factory, build a Cyclone or Widow Mine, and then Tab, build a medevac. So again, figure out what's best for you, try both, and see what you like. Anyway, this was the video about settings, in-game settings, graphics settings, and hotkeys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it helped you. If it did, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you have any ideas or want to ask a question, feel free to leave a comment down below the video. And I'll see you guys next time.